Welcome to 6 Feet in the Six. I'm your host, Jeff Bear with Business Interiors. Thank you for joining us today. The purpose of this interview series is for the close-knit Toronto commercial real estate industry to share ideas and best practices in order to help everyone get back to the office safely and efficiently. We'll be interviewing leaders from commercial real estate, project management, interior design, commercial end users, and product manufacturers. Joining us today is Greg Quinn, Principal and Chief Executive Officer of X Design. Greg, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Can you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I've been with X Design and in the commercial interiors industry for 26 years as of this month, I suppose. And that period I've been running X Design here in Toronto, but we also have offices in Hamilton. We have a satellite office in King City, Kitchener-Waterloo, and a satellite office in London, Ontario as well.
Great. And personally, how are you managing?
Personally, knock on wood, fine. Everybody in our, kind of family circle and, kind of our immediate work circle has been healthy and safe. And that's been, we've kept our, kind of all the grandmothers and things safe. And, that's been a big priority. So, we can't really, complain too much about it. I think like anybody, the social, feeling like a social outcast, working from your bedroom day in, day out. I am in the office today, but for the most part can be pretty draining. But I think, knowing that everybody's facing the same thing, it's been, it's made it a little less difficult, I think. So.
Can you show me what face mask you've been rocking?
Sure. I mean, right here, that's what I got. So I feel
nice pattern.
A little kind of tiger stripey, kind of, I think, I'm not sure I like what it does to my ears, but, hey, it's safe.
Where'd you get that made?
It's my wife ordered them. So I'm just along for the ride in so many ways in life. So I was told this was ordered for me and I wore it. So.
It looks great on you. I'm going to stop showing my face mask because I think it's getting a little redundant, but just know that you will get my girlfriend's mother's face mask handmade after this.
Oh, amazing. I like that. It's like a very personal touch you've been adding. I think that's been pretty great.
Thank you. So Greg, in season 2, we've implemented a new segment where we take a deep dive on our guest LinkedIn account and look for posts that need more context. So 9 months ago, X Design posted that Canadian Business and Maclean's today ranked X Design as number 345 on the annual Growth 500, the definitive ranking for Canada's fastest growing companies. Congratulations.
Thanks so much.
What's fueled some of this growth that you've had?
So I think what was driving the growth was the need to build a more resilient, sustainable business. So that was really a fundamental goal in our organization, was to not just grow for growth's sake, but to kind of grow with, to have, deeper bench strength, deeper capabilities, and be able to support our clients in a more meaningful way. So that was really the fundamental, reasoning behind putting a growth strategy in place. I like to, my general, kind of line in most pitches is I'm just the eye candy of the organization, but
and that must close a lot of deals.
Oh, well, maybe it doesn't close the deal, but it usually gets a laugh, right? It's again, integrating dad jokes into pitches has been a thing, and I know 37 people here would love me to stop, but it's who I am.
I got to write that down. Dad jokes. I didn't know that was. Got to play the hits, right?
You ever heard that dad joke thing?
You got to play the hits. I know. In the
you got to play the hits. That's what, like, Stu. It's like I'm a kid. My wife says she's heard them so many times, and it's just like it just makes her bananas because it's like she's heard the same stand-up set forever and ever. And I'm one of those comedians that I don't like. I just regurgitate. Hey, if it gets a laugh, I'm going to keep saying it.
So can you tell a little bit about how your book of business has been affected by COVID-19?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, we've, at any given point in time over the past few years, we generally have between about 170 to just under 200 live projects at any given point in time. We saw pretty much a 40, I think at a height, we probably had about 48% of our projects on hold, like kind of full stop. So, basically, we've had a revenue drop of, we're running right now. I mean, it probably went down to a revenue drop of about 70% drop for one of the months there, but we're kind of leveling it out at about, kind of around 48 to 50% drop right now that we're running in lost revenue. So it's been relatively, it's pretty substantial. Stuff is starting to come back online. So now the construction started up a few weeks ago. So some of those projects are coming off on hold. We are seeing, I mean, like we've booked a couple of long-term contracts over the past month. We've actually, and weirdly enough, I mean, we've closed more business in May than we ever have in any month in 25 years. But it's so that there's some long-term kind of engagements that we've been brought into, but they're not they're not going to be a massive substantial financial kind of boon for the next 6 months necessarily, right? Like they'll keep a couple folks busy, but it's more about the long haul.
Can you tell us about some of the projects that you're involved in and how they've changed course over the past couple of months?
Sure. I mean, there's projects that were in full swing under construction that, I think the effects are, have been, changes in construction procedures and, kind of is that affecting price? Is it affecting schedule? And, kind of dealing with those, kind of logistics issues. So those ones that were 100%, kind of constructed, it's really kind of dealing with those logistics of when do they come back on stream and how is this going to be affected and what are all the other, was there a space we had to get out of, and how are we kind of making sure we're managing the, kind of all those processes and pieces. I think projects that are, we've got, one of our long-term clients is Disney Cruise Lines. We're just about to start construction on a new practice facility or expansion of a practice facility underneath the CBC building. So that we built one several years ago, and if you work on a cruise ship in the musicals, you actually come to Toronto to practice underneath the CBC building. Who would have known? So there's these massive big sound stages, theater sound stages that we built. So we've designed a new expansion of those with stunt studios and different things like that. So that project, obviously things like that and we have another kind of large gym chain that we've been doing work for the better part of a decade. So we had multiple renovations underway with them. And they, those kind of clients where, the cruise industry and the gym industry, where we're not sure how that's going to affect our business. So the conversations very much have been around, obviously things are on hold, but how they come back on stream and what those look like in the future is very much this, kind of a macroeconomic issue with those industries completely. So those become kind of much grander discussions with the client as to, well, how is this going to shake out, and or is it going to be fine? Are we going to feel comfortable with gyms in 6 months? I don't know. Is the cruise industry going to come back online? Each of these practice facilities is associated with a ship. So there were like 5 ships under construction, I think is what it was. So, these are, kind of massive multi-year endeavors that our little project is just a piece of.
Safety typically doesn't look good, right? When people think of safety in an office, we think of signage, we think of hazard signs, do not enter. I think one of the biggest challenges now that we've all really determined together what we need to do to make the office safe, now we have to make safety look good. And I think that's going to be the challenge for the design industry, is how can we implement these new ideas, these new protocols, and not make it seem like a bunker, and make it intuitive and also look good in the process.
Oh, 100% agreed. Like, I think the solutions that are, kind of out there of, hey, just slap some acrylic on it and, put some yellow tape on the floor, and like it goes, there's so much, it goes against how we makes those spaces comfortable, right? And you're not, there, a workplace, we've grown a workplace, the idea of a workplace, into this other thing where it's a third place. It's a place to collaborate. It's a place to get work done. And one other concept I think too that we've really been trying to focus on is, the safety for folks to bring people back to the office. You're coming from the safety of your home. What we're promoting is really just to think, the office has to be considered, another safe space like your home. So, we haven't had to like put acrylic up around, in between our couch sections so that we're separated from our housemates, as much as maybe that might be desirable in some situations, but, we haven't, gotten rid of all the coffee machines in our kitchens and things like that. So, I think how we handle our personal space, we're, our push is to kind of move that, let's take some of those operational lessons that we've learned from home and apply those to the office. So how do you, when you come in, where do you drop your stuff? Like we're, personally in our spaces, we're going to have we're getting a couple of UV kind of cleaners. So you drop your keys, your phone, you can kind of, so stuff that's contaminated doesn't necessarily come into the space. You go straight to wash your hands first, just like you do when you get home. So you're just conscious of what's contaminated, or what could be contaminated, what's not. How do you keep things clean? And you take responsibility for kind of cleaning as you go, and that way that that space is effectively safe as your home, without it necessarily being acrylic everywhere. And because a lot of those things, when you really start deconstructing what's going on with a lot of that stuff, it's all very much a false, it's going to give you a false sense of security, with surrounding everything with acrylic, and I'll harp on that one. It's just you're quadrupling the surface area in a space that now needs to be cleaned.
I've said my piece about screens on this show. Thank you for bringing it up again.
This is the anti-screen show, though, isn't it? Isn't that what this is? I thought that I might have dialed into the wrong thing. Sorry.
It seems like it. Well, I'm just whatever. I've said my piece, yeah. But I have a new idea. Okay. Because I think these screens are all going to get thrown in the landfill next year when, and it's going to be awful. There's a shortage on acrylic right now. I'm not sure that's ever happened. Yeah. So instead of these screens that I have yet to see any research to suggest that they do anything. Mm-hmm. So why don't we implement solutions that we could at least reuse after this? So here's my idea. Someone's welcome to steal it. We retrofit pedestal drawers to be sneeze captures. Okay. So I'm at my desk. I have my pedestal beside me and I'm ready to sneeze. I open the drawer and I go into the pedestal drawer. The drawer has all the safe materials inside. It's going to capture it and it's going to just, get rid of the virus inside the drawer. Close the drawer. We're safe. I figured it's ridiculous, but it seems like that's what people are biting on these days. But at least we could reuse these things down the road.
So it's like a sneeze liner that you can kind of put inside.
That's right.
Drawer. Oh, that's gross on a whole bunch of different levels. I think it's just like, oh. Well, I think part of it too is if you're sneezing, like if you're sick, you shouldn't come to the office. I mean, like a sneeze is a sneeze. Like you don't have much control over that. But if you're, if you're sick, and I think we're gonna be taking a lot of that stuff way more seriously in the future, right? Like, because now it's like, no, you don't, like if you got a slight cold, but you can still, it's like, oh, I got some stuff to do. I can still work. Well, great, you can do that from home, So, and where it might actually be a little more comfortable, you can, get some more sleep. You can, kind of get better faster. I think it's gonna, but sneeze. Yeah, okay. I'm sneeze drawers. Love it.
Just let me know when you need pricing.
Yeah, I'll start putting that on the on our slide deck.
Okay, great. So for the product review this week, we're going to talk about phone booths. We'll mention a couple specific pods, but just phone booths in general. And full disclosure, I'm very fortunate to be a partner of Framery, the leader in this category. And a lot of the information I have is because of my partnership with them. So expect some biased opinions here. But for some background, we started seeing these pods about 10 years ago. Framery being one of the first ones to market. These phone booths were created in response to the open office. Noise being one of the biggest problems, these pods should have a high acoustic rating, which allows employees to get away and enjoy some silence for work or a personal call. They're great for focused work as well. So now pods are very common. I think they're considered on almost every large scale project that we're working on. And there's over 70 different pods on the market. They come in a variety of sizes. Some are predetermined sizes and other are more like paneling systems and are put together like a workstation. There's a variety of price points, performance attributes, which can sometimes make these things difficult to compare. So I thought we could talk about pods in two aspects: pods in a pre-vaccine world and pods in a post-vaccine world, because I think there's some interesting conversation on both. So what do you believe pre-vaccine, the use of pods should be in an office?
Great question. I think before pre-vaccine, I mean, we were using them as, kind of in two main ways. One was because we were, warehousing way more people and in these benching systems and getting a lot of folks kind of, together in a space, that privacy, being able to kind of take a private call, have a private meeting, be able to kind of step away just for a sec, even for just a second, was super hard, right? So that very often we'd have clients where it's like, yeah, all my people they go to the stairwell and take a call out there, and which is in itself isn't necessarily that private either. So kind of being able to drop these in place and create these kind of kind of very efficient and very kind of quiet spaces for them, it was a great thing. The other main reason as well is that without building, kind of walls and a door. So, for years we built those kind of spaces with actual drywall and insulation and all that sort of thing. So you can do that, but if you've got to move that thing later, it becomes a construction issue. So, the flexibility, being able to kind of drop these in and have them as flexible as everything else, and reusable, and and they are one thing that is it's as easy as the furniture to kind of dismantle and move to another site as well. So it's these things that, they're, generally most of them are really robust, so that, you can, be relocating these things. So the investment in them, if you look at it over a lifespan, is actually quite nominal, if it's something that's going to be kind of used over time. So really, it's that flexibility and quiet space were the kind of two main, reasons to even think about these things in the past.
And so, in a pre-vaccine world, do you see these being viable in the office, or is it something we shouldn't be using?
No, I think there's still, like, depending on, in a pre-vaccine world, you're not necessarily going to have an occupancy levels that are going to dictate the need for, kind of, really having to be able to jump into those, because folks aren't, going to be shoulder to shoulder at the benches. But there's still a need, like, even if you had a 50% occupied floor plate, and if you got to go make a private call, you still need to go into a quiet space. So I think they're still usable. For most of them, they've got kind of an acoustic fabric, kind of, lining on the inside. If it's got any hard surfaces and stuff, those are cleanable, just like any other meeting room or any other workstation. So, any kind of cloth materials and things like that only has a, kind of a fixed, it doesn't live that long on those surfaces. It's plastic laminates and things where it's like it's on for 3 days, which is, kind of an issue. So, a lot of, a lot of those things, it's just as long as they're getting cleaned, and I think it's like, just any general meeting space right now that people would be coming and going out of in a pre-vaccine world, there's going to be a cleaning kit there. Just give it a quick wipe when you're done. But again, if people are kind of hand washing and everything as they get into the space, it's just like, again, it's just like your home. You're not washing down your dining room table between, when the kids are there, when you're there, and that sort of thing necessarily, right? It's so if everyone's following the hand washing protocols and stuff like that opportunity to transmit stuff on surfaces is decreased exponentially. So it's, but I think just they're cleanable, they're usable, and I don't think there's any reason not to be using them in a pre-vaccine world. I mean, and some of them with the features of basically the air circulation, that sort of thing as well. I mean, it's kind of anecdotally, sometimes it feels like the air is better inside the booth than it is outside, and I'm not sure. It's always, I think it's, I think they're doing some kind of, there's a weird oxygen tank like at a casino in some of them or something, just to kind of get you, like to think you're, oh wow, this is so much better. That's a total conspiracy theory. Maybe we shouldn't be starting those on this, but yes, they all have a little oxygen tank.
That's what gets views, Greg.
It's a total conspiracy. But so from an air quality perspective and that sort of thing, I mean, they take great pains to kind of make sure air is still flowing through these things. So that in itself is and I would look, if we were going to be speccing one, to make sure that whichever one we were speccing had those features. Yeah, so I think definitely even in a pre-vaccine world, they're not really going anywhere. And I think in a post-vaccine world, it's particularly as we look at the flexibility question for clients, where and when you start looking at some of the larger units of these different models, where you can have a 2-person meeting, where it's integrated video, where it's or even larger units, but these things are 100% movable. The ability to build a studio quality sound booth effectively, that you can have a meeting and not disturb everybody else outside, and have a really quality kind of broadcast meeting on the inside, that's going to be huge, because building that kind of with bricks and mortar is that little bit extra more expensive, and it's not that flexible. So I think some of those units, even though they're they might seem like, it seems like a lot of money for a thing, it's as much as a car. Well, yeah, but this is how much you're spending for that room if we built it as a room, and then if we move that room, you're going to pay that again. So let's look at what is that cost benefit analysis. And there's also a performance analysis, because even if you to build that kind of the same levels of SDC ratings and even airflow and things like that, when you take some of those other things into consideration, the price actually starts becoming fairly the same. I mean, that's most of the booth companies are very smart. Their prices are right around what it would cost to build the equivalent SDC rated room, in drywall.
To the untrained eye, a small shared enclosed space might be the last thing you want to be in at the moment. And some of the way I think some of these pods are designed, I would agree with that. Those performance attributes that you mentioned are vary greatly across the board. So airflow being one of the most critical ones. The International Building Mechanical Code for airflow is 2.36 liters per second. Kind of one of the lower performing pods on the market is at 10 liters per second, because when you do have a smaller space, you do need to have a lot more airflow.
Yeah.
But the range can go from 10 to over 20 liters per second, for some of those higher performance pods. And so that fresh air feeling that you get when you go in there, that's going to be really desirable in a pre-vaccine world. And so the faster that air can turn over in the pod, I think is going to be really desirable. When it comes to materials, I mean, talking about acrylic again, I mean, there are some of those low cost pods are using acrylic for their see-through surface, right? Where others are using glass. So, I mean, even in a vaccine or not, things that we're learning about acrylic over the past couple of months is it's very porous. So it's a lot harder to clean. You technically can't clean it in some instances, and it can stain over time with the heavy cleaners that we're using these days. The other one is materials. You're right. I mean, it's just like any other room. We need to be able to wipe things down. The acoustic material in these pods does vary greatly from pod to pod. Some of them are just less kind of fray and easier to clean. Mm-hmm. But we're starting to see, like everyone else is trying to adapt to this new world, we are starting to see the manufacturer of these pods come out with some interesting ideas. Framery, for example, it has a copper handle option now, door handle that you can spec. Every pod comes with an alcohol-based disinfectant spray, and they're encouraging people to just spray down the booth when you're done with it. So like you say, just having things readily available. And then, yeah, so that's pre-vaccine. And to your point, post-vaccine, the relevance of these things is just going to exacerbate after this, because I think, and I'm, in my office, I have a Framery pod right beside my desk. I'm never in my desk because the nature of my job is I'm on the phone all day.
Yeah, yeah.
Now that people are so used to putting me on video, I would imagine I'm just going to live in that Framery pod because video conferencing is a way of life. And there's nothing better than taking a video conferencing call in a really good acoustic closed pod. I mean, the sound quality is unmatched to anywhere else in the office. So I think some of the poorly made ones pre-vaccine, I think there should be some concerns with some of the materials in there, but post-vaccine, yeah, I think the category is just going to grow, and it's just going to be much more technology enabled, and we're going to have cameras built into the walls of these things, and they're going to be video calling machines, and it's just going to make that part of our lives that much easier, I think. Greg, is there anything else you want the viewers to know about you or XDesign and how you're joining the fight against COVID-19?
Yeah, our team has put together a fairly comprehensive working document on workplace pandemic planning, which is available for free on our website. I think there's links on our LinkedIn and that sort of thing as well. So we took a considerable amount of time to really dig into what some of the different solutions that were being offered, some of the different concepts, some of the different ideas. And we're treating this more of a working document that, we've already gone through a couple of different updates as different information has been becoming available. And it's also trying to kind of cut through a lot of the, let's call it, there's a lot of static and, half thought out ideas that are out there. And, we feel that, it's a great starting point to kind of look at if you're looking to kind of get your workplace back in action, of what are some of the things you can do. And it's all kind of there. We've just kind of, put it all in the document and for free for anybody to use as they see fit.
Great. Well, Greg, thank you for joining us and sharing how XDesign is joining the fight against COVID-19. Keep up the good work.
Great. Thanks, Jeff.
Toronto, you are the best city in the world, and we can't wait for you to feel better. See, I've said that wrong on almost every episode. I never stop myself. I just publish it. I say, joining the fight against COVID-19, like you're almost against fighting it.
Yeah, I'm against fighting it.
I don't like how you guys are trying to
virus
solve
take
the
over,
problem.
like it'll be part of